Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Okay, well, today we're diving into a single source called Al-Haqqah.
Oh!
It's a religious text, and it doesn't hold back on the themes of judgment and accountability and divine revelation.
Right from the start, it really grabs your attention, too.
Yeah.
Emphasizes this whole concept of the reality.
Yeah.
Like setting the stage and saying, hey, listen up. This isn't just a story. This is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
Mm-hmm.
Especially for someone who's encountering this for the very first time.
Yeah.
That kind of statement.
If this is the reality, does that mean other realities are false?
Yeah.
It makes you think, for sure. And it also uses some really vivid descriptions, almost like it's trying to make you feel the weight of what it's saying.
Exactly. It paints a clear picture of what the consequences are, both good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where these stories of past civilizations come in, like Thamud and Anad. It's describing whole societies being wiped out.
Yeah.
Leaving behind, stumps of hollow palm trees. After this relentless wind that lasts 7 nights and 8 days, do you think that level of detail, is it effective? Or is it maybe a little too graphic?
I think it's intense. It's definitely intense, and you can feel the despair and destruction it's conveying. But maybe that's necessary, that dramatic imagery, to make the point that actions have consequences.
It's true.
And it's not just limited to those civilizations, whether it connects those events to Pharaoh and the overturned cities, establishing this pattern that disobedience leads to destruction. So it's not just a warning, it's like a reinforcement of God's power.
And then it uses those historical examples to lay the groundwork for Judgment Day.
Oh, yeah.
And if those descriptions we just talked about were intense, the imagery that it uses to describe Judgment Day is even more dramatic. We're talking about trumpets blasting, earth and mountains being crushed, the heavens cracking. It emphasizes the scale, the sheer scale of this event.
It feels like it's evoking awe and fear at the same time. But what really gets me is, within all of that chaos, it also focuses on the personal experience of judgment. It says, no secret of yours will remain hidden.
Oh, wow.
It's like ultimate vulnerability, accountability, everything's out in the open.
Yeah, you can't hide anything.
Nothing.
And that leads us to the contrast between the two fates that are waiting for everybody.
Yeah.
This grand cosmic sorting, you get your final report card, but the stakes are eternal.
Right.
Powerful visual of receiving a book in either your right hand or your left hand. And that's it. That's your destiny. What are your initial thoughts on how they use that?
I think it's simple but effective. You instantly understand rewarded or punished. On the one hand, you have those who get the book in their right hand. They rejoice. They enter a lofty garden with endless bounty. Paradise. All your needs are met, and you can relax and enjoy the fruits of your good deeds.
And then you have the other side, receiving the book in your left hand, filled with regret, wishing you could go back, but it's too late.
Yeah.
They're facing scorching fire and chains. It's not even just that they miss out on the good stuff. They are actively suffering.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Why use such graphic descriptions?
I think it adds a layer of fear, and it's meant to make you really consider what you're doing. And it gets specific, the text. It calls out the failure to help those in need. It's not just about belief in God, it's about actions, too. It's interesting, it emphasizes both faith and good works. Like, both are important.
And that leads to another point, too. It insists that this isn't just some made-up story or someone's philosophy. This is a direct revelation from the Lord of the Worlds. It even says it's not from a poet or soothsayer. What are your thoughts on how it makes that distinction?
It raises the stakes. If it's coming from a divine source, it carries a lot more weight than if it's just someone's opinion. It also uses this really dramatic imagery, talking about God seizing and silencing anybody who would dare to falsely attribute words to him. It's like a challenge, Don't even try to question this.
And that level of authority makes you pay attention.
For sure.
But it also makes you think about who this is for. It calls itself a message for the righteous.
Right.
Implying that some might just reject it.
Yeah.
Who do you think this message is really for?
Yeah. It's almost like it knows not everyone will like it.
Yeah.
But why say it's for the righteous then? Is it just reinforcing beliefs that are already there? Or is there something more to it?
That's a good question. Maybe it's about giving comfort, to those who already believe. While at the same time, it's like a wake-up call to those who don't.
Yeah.
Or who aren't sure. It knows some will reject it, but it doesn't care. It's just stating the truth.
And it ends on such a strong note, too, declaring, yet it is the absolute truth. It's like the final word. You're left with this feeling of weight, consequences. It's a lot to unpack, for sure, even if you don't subscribe to what it says.
Yeah. What resonates the most with you from all of this? Is it the vivid descriptions, the accountability, or the divine revelation? What do you think?
It's how universal the themes are, you know? Even if you take away the specific religious stuff, the idea that we're going to be judged for what we do, that there are consequences, good or bad, that's everywhere. That's all throughout history. Why do you think that is? Why do these themes just keep popping up? Even in societies that are so different.
I think it speaks to this human need, this need for justice and meaning. We want to believe there's some kind of balance. Good is rewarded, evil is punished, even if we don't always see it. It's also about finding purpose. The world can feel so chaotic and unfair, you know? The idea that our lives have a greater meaning, that they're part of a bigger story, that can be comforting.
I get that. It's like we want things to make sense, to have a reason to exist, even if we don't understand it right now.
Exactly.
But what if everything we do is being recorded and judged? That's a lot of pressure to be good, isn't it? Like you're constantly being watched, evaluated.
Yeah. Do you think it makes you scared? Or does it make you want to do good?
Probably a bit of both. It can be a deterrent, encouraging good behavior, you know, because you don't want to be punished.
Yeah.
But for some, it could be a driving force to live a better life, to be righteous and earn their place in that lofty garden.
And that image of paradise is really something, it taps into our deepest desires, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For happiness.
A
place where there's no suffering, where you have everything you need. It's like the ultimate promise.
But the text doesn't hold back on the opposite either. It describes the punishments, too, for those who aren't worthy. And those descriptions are just as vivid, just as real.
Why do you think they go to such length to show both, the good and the bad?
It's about contrast, making sure you understand the choices you make matter. You don't just miss out on the good stuff. You actually experience suffering, the fire, the chains, the regret. It makes you feel it. The weight of it all.
It really drives home the point that what you do has eternal implications.
It makes you think about what path you're on, you know? Are you doing the things that lead to the good stuff or the bad stuff? But beyond the vivid descriptions, there's that message of divine revelation. The text insists this isn't just a story, it's a message straight from God. What do you think about that claim? How do you think it affects the way people read the text?
I think that's where faith comes in. If you believe this adds a different weight to the message, it's not advice, it's a direct command. And that can be really powerful. You know, it can shape entire cultures, change history.
It's amazing to think about the role these kinds of texts have played in history. Wars, empires, all built and destroyed because of this. It really shows you the power of ideas. But what about those who don't believe? What can they take from this text, even if they don't think it's from God?
Even if you take away the belief, there's still a lot to learn. It shows you how important it is to take responsibility, to be accountable for what you do. It's a reminder that what you do has consequences, even if you don't see them right away. And that goes beyond any religion.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's about realizing we're all connected. The choices we make affect everyone.
That brings us back to righteousness. The text talks about it a lot, but what does it mean to be righteous if you're not talking about religion?
If we look beyond the religious definition, it becomes about integrity, compassion, being aware of how you affect the world. It's about making choices that help everyone, not just yourself, choices that aren't selfish.
So it's like taking the idea of being good and making it something anyone can follow.
Exactly.
No matter what they believe, it's something we can all benefit from. But we've talked about a lot, you know, from judgment to revelation.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most important takeaway for someone reading this for the first time?
I think it's a tough text. It really makes you think. But if I had to pick one message, just one, it's that your choices matter. Doesn't matter if you believe in God or judgment or any of that. It's urging you to think about what you do, how you affect the world around you.
It's not just about being scared of punishment, is it?
No, not at all.
It's about knowing that we're all connected. What I do affects you. What you do affects me. We can't just ignore that.
And that takes us back to righteousness. Remember how the text talks about that?
Yeah.
But what if we think about it differently? What does it mean to be righteous, like in a bigger sense, not just the religious way?
It's funny you say that, because when we were talking about the punishments and the warnings, I kept thinking about the other side, the lofty garden, the rewards.
Right.
Is it just about following the rules so you don't get in trouble? Or is there something more to it, something better?
I think that's what makes this text so powerful. Even if you don't agree with all of it, it's not just about what not to do, it's giving you a vision of a good life, a life that leads to something amazing, maybe even paradise.
Okay, so even without God, it's still a guide for making good choices that make your life better and everyone else's too.
Yeah, exactly. Choices about being compassionate, generous, thinking about what kind of impact you have.
And that's something you see everywhere, isn't it? Wanting to live a life that matters, making choices that help everyone.
It's something that connects us all.
We've covered a lot today: judgment, revelation.
We have.
Big ideas. But it feels like it all comes back to this one question. How do our choices shape our future and the world around us?
It's not an easy question to answer. The text shows you the consequences, but it also makes you think for yourself.
So as we wrap up, I want to ask you, the listener, that same question. What parts of this text stood out to you?
Yeah, what did you think?
And what does it mean to be righteous in your life?
Maybe it makes you think about what's important to you, or how what you do affects other people, or even just the choices you make every single day.
That's a lot to think about, but that's what these deep dives are all about.
Right. Getting you to think.
We just scratched the surface today.
Yeah.
But hopefully it gave you some new ideas, new questions.
That's the point.
And like always, the real learning happens when you take these ideas and think about them in your own life. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.
Yeah, keep learning.
And keep trying to be the best version of yourself.